What up, fam? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. This is A2D Wednesday nights talking Phillies with you. Dallas Goedert, Jordan Davis. He got an extension. Not Goedert. We're going to talk about them all. Let's go.
I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Welcome in, everybody. This is A2D Wednesday nights, only on A2D Radio. Every Wednesday, we are brought to by our doc, Make Them Yours, at Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, location in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Find them right down there on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. As always, we're missing some cats on Wednesday night, but that's Heel Chrome. That's Greg Milakovic. I'm Tom Arnone. Everybody out there, welcome in, baby. Phillies Nationals, little post game. Phillies winners of 4 in a row, actually. So we'll give you that later on at the tail end of the show. Eagles draft recap. We'll do it again. You know, we've touched on it a lot, but guess what? I think they had a good draft, and let's dive in. Let's dive into it again. Dallas Goedert, his future. What is it? I know this has been a topic of conversation, obviously, over the last week, and I know I have my opinions on it, and we'll get everybody else's as well. But main topic at hand, Jordan Davis. The Eagles pick up the 5th-year option on Jordan Davis. I think $12.9 million 5th-year option. So Jordan Davis is signed through 2026. So 2 more full seasons with Jordan Davis. Technical poll question. The Eagles made the right decision to pick up the option for Jordan Davis. Agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. That's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we're there as well. Hit the like, subscribe, follow, and most importantly, join the conversation tonight. Let us know. I know this is, I don't want to say a hot topic, but I know you're either sold on Jordan Davis and you really like him, and then I know there's people in the other camp that feel like he brings nothing to the table. So
yep.
I know what camp I'm in. I completely agree with this decision, and I think anybody that doesn't agree with this decision should pretty much stop watching football. That's how I feel about it. Because you're just a stat junkie and you don't pay attention to anything else. And how important he was, and how he got better and got more pressure on the quarterback in the playoffs. If you really look at it, he had 2 sacks in the playoffs. I think
his sacks came late. You're right, Tommy.
Won the whole year maybe before that. So, right, I think he clogs up the middle in a big way. I think he helps a guy like Zach Bowen and your other linebackers have more space. There's just so much he does in the run game that allows you to get in 3rd and long. And I think that's the big thing that goes overlooked here and is overshadowed when you talk about Jordan Davis. But, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You give yourself 2 more years with a guy who's continuing to still get better and develop and grow as a player. And he's your best defensive player. I don't want to say best friend, but a guy that he's extremely close to and has played a lot of football right next door to him. Right next door. Right? They living on the same block, but they weren't living on the same block. They were right next door. And that's what they did at the University of Georgia. And we said it 1,000 times, the reason that defense was as good as they were. They were 2 big parts of it. And there's a big reason on why our defense was what they were last year was because of those 2 and how they got better. They both have gotten better. And they're both first-round picks. So first-round picks that get better is a good thing to have. So, I don't know. I mean, you can still watch football if you don't agree with the decision. But I don't want to hear about, like, it costing you other things because it does not. That's the case. So if you think that costs you something else, that's where I'm going to tell you stop watching football. If you don't think he's good enough and a big piece to our defense being what they were, I'm going to ask you again, maybe just watch 1 o'clock games only. I don't know. But I agree, guys. What do you guys say?
Yeah, Tommy, I'm with you. I'm in the camp. I laugh when I hear people saying, "Oh, he doesn't bring anything to the pass rush game," or the Eagles weren't getting what they expected out of the pass rush. And I sit there and I go, "What were they expecting out of the pass rush?" He's not a pass rush specialist from the defensive tackle standpoint. He has done exactly what was brought in to do. Now, maybe he hasn't gotten to where they want to in terms of dominance at times. You know what I mean? But he does exactly what we want him to do. And you mentioned it, Tommy, freeing up space for Jalen Carter, freeing up space even for your ends on the other side, especially now that we're in the 3-4, right? So he's freeing up space for those guys. So I absolutely agree. I think $13 million or $12.9 is a steal for someone like that. Even if you don't necessarily extend him past 26, I think it's a steal of a number to bring him back and have him for 2 more years. Now, obviously, there's some concerns, right? People have concerns about his weight and his being in shape and stuff like that. But when he's on the field, you notice him, and I think that's a huge part. I think you're going to see them keep these Philly dogs together as long as they can. And I, like you said, so I agree. I think the 12.9 or the 13, whatever you want to round it up to, I think is ultimately a steal for a 1 year, for 1 more year of Jordan Davis at least.
Yeah, I'm going to round it out. Same idea here. I mean, I think. What's the matter?
No, you're just saying round it out like.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Circle the wagons.
I thought he was saying like get off of mute. I was like, wait, what? No, I agree. Yeah, we're gonna round it out here. Yeah, no, for sure. Because I just think when you look at this situation, Greg, you touched on it exactly. When he was drafted, it was in his scouting report. He was never going to be a pass rush specialist here. His whole deal is plugging up the hole, stopping the run game. And honestly, with the way they built this line, it's okay to have a guy of his size too, because that's another factor, right? He's next to Jalen Carter, who he has a chemistry with. So his imposing size alone commands enough respect to create situations for Jalen Carter to be able to get free as well. But his specialty's been the run game. And guess what? This defense does not give up a whole lot on the ground. They haven't. I mean, I'm not saying he hasn't been a starter consistently, but he's been a part of plugging up those holes and stopping those run games. And he does seem to be a guy that even when you don't feel like you've heard his name enough, he does make big plays. I mean, I remember a primetime game a couple years ago where a big boy was trucking it down the sideline. I think it was Josh Allen. Took him down, and when it looked like he was going to break it down the sideline. So I just look at him and I see a guy who you got to factor into. There's a lot of players that are going to be coming up that are going to be eligible for extensions. To me, this is a cost-efficient move. You keep the guy that you have that was part of your Super Bowl team in-house, and it's like a 2-year tryout for him, right? Has he hit the plateau we expected yet? No. But he's still very, very young. And they continue when we get in the draft coverage, obviously, to add pieces to this defense from big-time programs in the SEC and everything else to where I feel like he's the type of guy that the more talent around, it almost seems like it motivates him a little bit. So I think it's a good move. You do have to start looking at guys and saying, okay, where is it financially responsible to keep a guy around? And again, even though he hasn't quite hit that plateau, the Eagles have been really smart with when they give guys money a little bit earlier and the guys end up paying off at the end. And I think that this is going to be one of those situations over the next 2 years. Get in shape, prove it. You're next to your buddy, Jalen. There's going to be other pieces around you, a lot more pieces locked in. And I think you're going to see a better version of Jordan Davis.
Yeah, I already think we've seen a better version than we saw the first 2 years.
Year over year, he's gotten better.
He definitely has,
yeah. He definitely has. I mean, I know his snap counts have been or percentages decreased from his sophomore year to his junior year, right? But I got to go back to what Greg said earlier. Nothing about what Greg said, but the people's perspective on him or perception of him that he's out of shape. That's comical to me. Okay. Because if you're out of shape, you're not getting 2 sacks and one in a title game against Jaden Daniels and then another one against Patrick Mahomes. Okay. If you're out of shape, because at that point of the year, you're done. You're dead. And you're sure as hell not going to get a contract extension from one of the best run organizations in all sports. They're not an extension, but they're not going to pick up your 5th-year option if they have concerns about you being out of shape. That's what people don't understand. The guy's a gigantic human being. He's a gigantic human being. What would you like him to do? How thin would you like him to be? Because then he's not a gigantic human being. That's a lot of muscle there. If you think that's just a fat man walking around, then you got things confused over gigantic and just fat, because there's a lot of fatness around, but that dude is gigantic, and he will literally bench press your car. So I don't know if he's out of shape. Okay, so you try to use something different, please. This takes you back to old school football. What are a lot of teams doing? What are a lot of teams understanding now? That the running game's important, and the running game sets up everything. So when you're a step ahead of that, and you draft a guy at his caliber and say, I'm going to use a first-round pick on a run, literally a 2-down defensive tackle.
Yep.
Nobody would do that. Eagles did. And if you don't think it helped their run game out over the last 3 years, again, you haven't watched enough. And if you think Zach Bourne didn't get paid a lot of money, and a big part of that is he talented? Of course he is. But look what's in front of him. Look what's in front of him with those two guys. The reason that Kobe Dean, if he wasn't hurt, would have been a first-round draft pick in that draft he was in. But injury concerns set him back because he was roaming around free. He was free as a bird. Free as a bird with those two guys in front of you. You think it helped Derek Brooks when he had Warren Sapp and who was Saragusa? He had some things in front of him. You think it helped Derek Brooks? I think so. It's any middle linebacker in the history of football. If having two guys up front as your tackles, if they eat stuff up, if it makes your job easier or not. Because Ray Lewis will tell you the same thing, and he killed a guy. You know what I mean? But before he killed a guy, he'll tell you the same thing. Saragusa, who was the other? They had a nose tackle there. They had Saragusa, but they always had good deep tackles in that 3-4. Always.
Yeah, and I think the one thing too, right? You touched on it there, Tom, is that it's almost like fashion, right? Everything comes around in cycles, and the run game, the 1990s football style of ground and pound. The Philadelphia Eagles are bringing it back, right? It's almost like baggy jeans on women right now. Apparently, it's a thing again. Running game is the same thing. It's coming around. The Eagles have now through their own offense have changed the way that teams look at how you can succeed in the NFL. And you're seeing, obviously, you saw Baltimore. They ran the football a lot last year. There are teams now focusing. Detroit has a great run game. And you need to have guys who can plug those holes up. You need run-stop specialists. We can't just get to the quarterback every single play. You could still send 3 and have that guy there who's going to plug, right? So I think that there is a definitive role for him with this defensive line, particularly with how strong it is already with losing Milton Williams. It is a very, very strong defensive line here, and they've added more depth to it as well. So I really feel like this is the time for him with how the game's now evolving, where you can almost now maybe see the fruits of the labor that you put into him to where he can really shine if these teams really do start replicating what some of these other teams who run the ball have done.
And before Rye goes, you nailed it, because it is like fashion. It is like other things. It's trends, and they go in cycles. No, now men wear the skinny jeans and the ladies are getting baggy. So, I mean, make it make sense, but whatever. Another topic for another day here on ATK. But you nailed it, because it goes from pass happy league, and it got really pass happy, I would say, over the last decade. Yeah. Right. And now it's starting to shift back, and teams are copycats as well. It's a copycat league like any other sport. So when a team just wins a Super Bowl and beats what is perceived and what is a dynasty in the Kansas City Chiefs, everybody's going to copy that formula on how they did it. Go look at the draft. We can all go look at the draft.
Yeah,
we just watch right in front of us. Okay, teams are D tackles, defensive line. They're all going to get guys, big humans, because they see it.
And the Philadelphia Eagles have been ahead of the curve for that for years, even back to when Andy was here and Chip was here. It was always under Jeffrey Lurie, back to with Andy and Jeffrey Lurie. Everything was from the trenches out. You talked about it so much the year we won the Super Bowl in 2017, Tom, right? They had a front 8, right? On both sides of the football, it almost felt like. They were deep, and they built everything from the outside there. So this organization has been ahead of the curve for the better part of 2 decades when it comes. And I'm shocked it's taken this long for the league as a whole to catch on to that you can win with running the football if you build your team up front. And you can have a quarterback that can stay upright. If you build if you build from up front, right? You're not going to have a bunch of Tuas out there. Jalen Hurts takes a hell of a lot of hits, but he's protected quite a bit. And now because you have a running back like a Saquon Barkley running behind monsters in cleats, it's a world of difference. And it's shocking to me that the league's taken this long to catch up.
Right. What do you say to the poll?
Well, I think picking up the option was an easy decision for everybody. It's very hard to quantify how big of a role Jordan Davis has, because when people just look at a box score, he's not going to be there. Because like you guys were talking about, like his job is just take up space, right? If he's in the middle of that defense and they're in their running downs, they're not running at him because he's 6'7", 6'8", 350. They're not going to go at that dude.
They're going to try to run at the All-Pro next to
Yeah,
him.
they're going to go at Jalen Carter. Like, and I think like the biggest thing for him and why Jordan Davis is looked at so highly around here, at least like within the Eagles, and people actually know ball, is because he makes the job easier for everybody else around him. Because if this dude takes up this much space in the defense, okay, cool, he's not going here, so he has to go left or right or whatever direction it is, and it gives more time for those linebackers to be able to get up to the line and plug the holes that might be there or might not be there. And like, again, I think you were saying, like, as I was getting on, like he started getting a lot better towards the end of the year, like in the playoffs. Like, I'm pretty sure he sacked Stafford. I was at that game, so I don't really remember that because had a few beverages that day. But I'm pretty sure like he was tearing up that game, and again, he was a force in the playoffs. So, there's the possibility of, again, like, hey, he's entering year 4. He's still only 24 years old. There's the possibility he takes that next step. And if you don't pick up the option, which I think they had to pick it up within, a day or two here, and he goes off. Yeah, like, and he goes off this year, then you have to pay him. You're forced to. At least, at least now you have that extra year to be like, all right, hey, cool. You did it this year. Let's do it again next year and then see what happens. So I'm totally cool with you, picking up the option. I'd like to see a little bit more stats wise. Like, I'm not going to lie, before you give him a massive extension like Jalen Carter is going to get. But hey, I'm totally cool with picking up the option.
Yeah, I think that's where this comes in, Ryan. Like, it's a 2-year prove it deal, right? And with how the league is trending, it actually favors his skill set. And you hit the nail on the coffin in terms of the common senses with how much space he takes up. That's less space that has to be filled by somebody else. And I think that's an important factor in here that, that opens up more opportunities for your linebackers and for Jalen Carter and everybody else who's around him, the rest of the defensive line. I mean, this really is a very big pivotal point for him to where I think the league will trend to his strengths as a defender.
Yeah, plus
he only had one sack. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, plus like with losing Milton Williams too, like are you gonna you really want to have to replace another DT next year?
Right.
No, I'd rather have a guy that's already in house. So.
Yeah, you want to throw that pressure on Ty Robinson right out the jump, right? His third round pick, and he might be really good, right? All signs, and everything you hear about him being talked about, he's going to be good. But yeah, you don't want that right off the rip, right? You don't want that pressure on him. You want him to be able to come in as a third round pick and kind of feel his way around things. But he had one sack in the regular season that was early against New Orleans. Against New Orleans. But he did have 2 in the playoffs, one against Washington and one against Kansas City.
Trending up.
Yeah, there you go. Again, hey, if he's performing in the biggest games that matter, again, if it's sack against Washington, an NFC Championship game, sack in the Super Bowl, I mean, hey, your best players tend to show up and win the brightest light. So,
and think about those 2 games though too. Those were, from the defensive standpoint, all they did was pass, right? Because the Eagles jumped up big in both of those games. So I mean, he only had 13 snaps against Washington, so 13. He had 2 tackles and a sack, and then he had 14 snaps in the Super Bowl with 2 tackles and a sack. So, in the limited snaps that he had in those games, because they were so pass heavy, he was pretty impactful.
Yeah, and I think they hope for him to continue to get better in that aspect of his game too. So I think that's another part of again, Ryan hit it with what this is easy. It's an easy decision to pick up the 5th-year option. I mean, it's not enough for debate.
You would
Why would
think,
you
but
choose
there's
not?
people who don't think it was that easy, which is bewildering to me.
Because his fan base is half of it's clueless. If it's again not the stats aren't in front of them. Like I don't know how else to make it make sense to those people besides saying that like tape doesn't lie, and tape's not going to lie to this organization either.
Yeah, but
and why would you want to get rid of him when you're trying to keep his like arguably one of his best friends? Like wow,
No,
like what kind of sense does that make?
For sure.
No, and this team has tried to replace guys before coming off of a Super Bowl title, and it's been tough, right? So the window is wide open for this team right now, and if you have an internal option, particularly who has a chemistry with half of your defense and has won titles on all levels with these guys, like to me, it's a logical plug-in, and I just think it's foolish to think otherwise.
And it's why, and I don't want to say like that we reach, right? But it's why sometimes you take that guy in the first round that maybe isn't fully a first round talent. Now, where we took him at 13, I think they fully expected him to be a first round talent and him to be this, right? But in the first round, you take that for that extra year, right? You take that 5th year, you take that guy in the first round to have that 5th year option. So you have that ticket, right? You have that ticket. And you look at a guy like Jahan Dotson, right? His second team, first round pick, that's an easy decline, right? It's an easy decline because you can find those guys, and it might even be him just at a cheaper rate, right? But you find those guys all over the league, so you decline that. You can't find this guy out there on the streets, right? This type of guy, this type of body size, this type of player doesn't just roll around on the streets in the NFL, right? They get sucked up pretty quickly and usually pretty expensive.
Yeah, and I think
you're not finding guys that are 6'6", 335 falling off the tree.
Yeah. So. Right. And I think
you might be breaking the whole tree down.
Yeah, and you really do.
You brought the trade.
Yeah, you take care of your own players, right? Like that's the difference too with a guy like him and a Jahan Dotson, right? He's been here, he's been in the trenches with this team and this core. And I think you reward a guy like that. And I think Ryan had another really strong point, right? Some guys aren't stat sheet fillers, but the difference is on the field. And like you said, Tom, you could see it on, when you watch the video. And one of the guys I know, sometimes it's controversial when I say this, but I look at the Super Bowl year specifically, and I look at a guy like Derek Barnett, who did not necessarily fill the stat sheet, but that year, it seemed like every time there was a big play, he was around the football. And did he make some bonehead plays at times where he had bonehead penalties? He did. But he had a lot of big sacks that year in big moments. And I think that he did elevate his game and make guys around him a little bit better in the opportunities he did get. And I feel like that is what Jordan Davis does, but particularly with Jalen Carter next to him. I really feel like that he is at least at this particular point in their careers, I think he's almost like you talk about the tight end being a safety blanket for somebody, right? I almost feel like that relationship and that familiarity is a comfort zone for a Jalen Carter as well, to know he knows what he's going to have with the guy next to him. He's played at multiple levels with him. And that's your guy. That's your next Reggie White, like for all intents and purposes. So if he's on board with it, it's a no-brainer to keep him
here. Yeah. I want to make like a comparison, not anywhere near like the same position-wise, but same defensively. Like it took Brandon Graham 3-4 years to get going, right? Yeah. And then he became, a staple of this organization. And he's an all-time great now, where like his first couple years, he only had a handful of tackles, handful of sacks. And then that 5th year, he started really like, 5.5, 6.5 sacks, getting like 40, 50 tackles a year. And like, not to say that Jordan Davis can turn into that, but, he brings it up to, 40, 50 tackles and gets 3-4 sacks next year. And, he's probably going to get asked to do a little bit more just because of, what you lost in free agency. Mm-hmm. So give him the opportunity to. And if he doesn't have a better year, and then, again, like we said, basically a 2-year prove-it deal here, and he earns that a contract extension like all these other guys are going to get. So The Eagles don't give up on first-round draft picks, especially the ones that they take. They don't. So you're going to give them all the opportunity to be able to, play up to what they think he is. So.
Yeah, and especially ones where they've invested in the one area or one school, right? I mean, like, I think they're going to tend to hold on. But if you look back at just our recent Super Bowl runs, right? Where were we so good? We were obviously so good on both lines. And what did that do? That freed up our linebackers, as Tommy mentioned earlier, right? To go be playmakers, go make plays. We did the same thing go back to 2018, even the run when we were there in 22, right? And of course this year, right? Our defensive lines were dominant, and it allowed our linebackers to go make plays. I mean, you look back at that 2018 team, none of those linebackers jump off the board as like these all-time great linebackers. But what they were though is they were athletic playmakers that didn't have to worry about shedding blocks and getting offensive linemen in their face, because Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and all those guys, Chris Long, right? All those guys were doing their job in the defensive line and keeping the guys free and able to go make plays.
Like Nigel Bradham was a guy on that team who I felt like really benefited from how well that the guys in front of him played on the line.
Sure.
And for this team, and that was at a time where they really didn't invest very much in the linebacker position. Mm-hmm. There are linebackers they brought in here in free agency at that time who I think outplayed, necessarily their skill level or what was expected of them because of having that talent in front of them. And I think that, again, you're looking at a similar situation here now with the way this team is built.
Yeah, absolutely. What up, Bryce?
Good draft. A lot of teams got better. Well, I mean, maybe. Maybe Bryce. Sounds good. Everybody
thinks they got better, right?
Illustrative said that's why I think Aziz should start over Alex Hunt for now. That UGA blood is strong.
See, I felt like Jalix played really well down the stretch last year, though, and in the
did.
playoffs.
Oh, yeah,
he really played well. And again, some of it you didn't necessarily even see in the stats. But if you watch those games, he's one of those guys we talked about where he just always seemed to be around the football at the right time. And I think that goes a long way. I think Jalix Hunt is a guy who's going to be on the rise this next upcoming season.
Yeah, and I know we've gone through the actual numbers, but there's no. Yeah, I mean, once Brandon Graham got hurt, Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt with those extra snaps that they were able to get. Nolan Smith we saw firsthand. Jalix Smith you saw flash, but you didn't realize it until you start to dive into those stats. How good Jalix Hunt was down the stretch with Brandon Graham out. So I think you're absolutely right. I think he's one of those that's going to be, looked at as, holy crap, where do we get him from? Right? You're going to look at him this year and be like, oh my God, where did he come from? Like, let's go back to that Houston Christian tree, right? But no, I agree with you. I think Jalix is poised to have a very solid year for sure.
You would think, right? You would definitely think so. Yeah, Pat, I don't think we're going to see much of Huff unless, he has a good camp and things change.
What's his dead cap hit if they move him post June?
Let me see. I he's going to be around this year from my memory. He's going to be around this year. Whether he plays or not, it's a completely different story, right? But contractually, it doesn't make any sense to them to cut him this year. He's got an out after 26.
This is his last guaranteed?
No, money? He's got more guaranteed money, but his dead cap right now is 29. After this year, it goes to 21. So just that alone saves them $8 million if they were to just axe him.
Say some $8 million.
Yeah. So yes, the potential out is 2020. Free agency 2026, which is after this year, right? It turned into a 2-year, $34 million deal with a dead cap of 20, just shy of 22. So you'd save about $7-8 million.
So the dead cap's always kind of confusing to me. If they were to trade him, is it the same hit?
No.
So that's why I'm curious, right? Because I could see him still getting moved.
He could get traded. I just don't think anyone's taking that money. Because then if they don't keep him, I think then they get hit with a dead cap.
That's why I was curious if what the hit would be next year if they were to trade him. Because I know you still get a dead cap hit a lot of times when you trade guys, but I figure it's less than if you were to outright cut him.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't tell me what the trade number is. It just says the dead cap, and it might be the same. I don't think you get banged on a trade. But it's funny in his contract. He's got sack escalators. So like at 12 sacks, he gets himself a $500,000. 14 sacks, he gets a mil. Right? So he's got $2, $3, $4, $5 million in sack escalators.
Watch, we're talking shit, and he'll probably have an All-Pro year this year. Watch,
he's going to be around. So you would think second year in the offense or in the defense might do him well because he's going to be here, right? Like that number, he's going to be here. And again, he's only 27, right? We look at guys like Aziz, and we look at guys like Josh Uche, who we brought in. Those guys were short of 30, right? They're 26, 27, 25 years old, I think, in Aziz's case. And they were just in a wrong spot or with injury, right? So maybe Huff was just completely overwhelmed. And let's be real, I'm just trying to play the positive side of it here for Bryce Huff, just because he's going to be around. But maybe year one, he was overwhelmed and he didn't realize what he was getting into with Vic Fangio. And now having a whole year and an off season, maybe we see something different out of him.
I think it's as simple as in New York, he was used as a pass rush specialist. And here he didn't get any pressure, fell out of grace, and the rest there is history. But I think if he's used correctly, there may still be something there. Now, keep in mind, that's on turf.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a little bit more get off, right? A little quicker. He's a speed guy. He's not going to beat you with power. So, again, I don't care enough to be out on the guy because we're deep there. In my opinion, still, even after our losses of guys, we're still deep there, and we got a lot of low risk, high rewards, even though he's not a low risk. But at this point in our minds, he is a low risk, high reward at this point. Well, same with Uche and same with Aziz.
And I think what allows that is the fact that they do have guys that have stepped up who are producing on the team, but they're young guys who don't make a lot of money. So it's a situation where Greg, what you're putting into the universe is a best case scenario. Right? Yeah. But I think the reality for me is, listen, you can't be right 100% of the time. And I feel like this was just the one where they thought this guy is going to fit this defense, and he just does not fit the defense at all.
Yeah.
I think he could be the same guy he was for the Jets in another defense. But what Vic runs, I just don't think it's a strength for him. And I can't get into the ins and outs of why, but it just seems like he never seemed to fit anytime he was on the field. So again, listen, you're right 98% of the time. You got your 2%. He's part of the 2%. The only problem is in this case, the 2% got a really big bag, got
paid pretty well.
But if you're going to make the mistake because of how deep they are and how deep and productive at a very young age with a very low cap hit for everybody else with him, pretty much, it almost kind of oddly balances out because by the time he's gone, it's not going to affect what you're going to pay these guys when it's time for their
big boy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, It might just be a matter of he had a really good contract year, right? Because, his first 3 years in the league, he had 2 sacks, 3.5. He had 10 last year. And then this past year, 2 years ago, he had 10 a contract year. And then this past year, 2.5, which, again, we saw at the end of the year, he wasn't even playing. So hopefully you can find somewhere maybe in the middle because he's got all these other people around him. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that one.
Hey, I'll take 5 sacks, 4.5. Honestly, that's something.
That'd take something, but
It's a double of production.
I guarantee you guys that he doesn't want to hit anybody in the run game. I guarantee that's what the problem is. I have no inside knowledge of that. That's just common sense tree. I just picked an apple out of the common sense tree over here, and that's what it is.
Didn't want to
Like, what did the Jets run? Did the Jets run the 3-4, the 4-3?
They did run a.
They do run a 3-4.
They did run a 3-4 under Sal, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was.
It wasn't. It wasn't fit. It wasn't fit. It was fit with Vic because Vic wants his outside linebackers in a 3-4 to have a 1-2 in the run game.
Yeah,
it's got to be that because this guy just wants to get up the field, and that's all he wants to do is get up the field, and he's not willing to put his nose into things. That would make the only thing that would make sense on why young guys jumped him like they did. Because younger guys were jumping in like nobody's business. Right. So that tells me I got paid, and now I don't want to get my beak wet. Again, speculating, but what else would make sense?
I don't even know.
Forgot a pass rush.
Yeah,
you forgot. Like all of a sudden, you woke up one day and you couldn't get to the quarterback anymore. I highly doubt that one. That's hard to believe. Well, especially in New York, where you were playing down the whole time.
Hey, Nnamdi Asomugha signed here and forgot how to cover. So
true.
He's still having lunch by himself in his car. So.
Hey, listen, he's a happy guy. He's married to Kerry Washington. I think he's doing all right in life.
Good point.
Chuck says he thinks he agrees with the poll. Why do you think?
Yeah, Chucks. How do you think?
All right, what do you guys what's your grade of the draft? I know there's some people out there that claim we didn't get better this offseason too. What's your guys' opinions on all that? Draft, did we get better this offseason? Not just in the draft, but period.
I think the Eagles did what they do. I think they went out. I mean, clearly the focus was on defense, right? I bought a lot of depth in defensively. And honestly, at all levels of the defense, right? They went up to the line. They went for an edge rusher. They got linebacker depth, safety depth. Like they really, to me, like it told me that this is the team that know their identity. They're confident in what they have built and the guys in place. And it was about making sure that those guys have support behind them, as well as guys that you can develop. That's how I looked at it. I wasn't looking for them to move up and get a home run hitter like an Abdul Carter. I think that was a pipe dream for a lot of people. And I'm very happy with the draft that they had. And what they did is look at the colleges, look at the schools that these guys came out of, a lot of SEC guys. So these are guys who, again, played for big programs, big games, teams that are typically in a national title conversation, or at least the playoffs conversation. So I think this is exactly what I expected and what I think they needed from this draft. We didn't need to reinvent the wheel, and Howie didn't do that. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah, well, Jahad Campbell, I mean, you could have made the case. You go up.
That's a home run, by the way.
Yeah, you go up in the top 15 and get him. He's a top 15 pick. That's a Saban guy. That wasn't not a Sarkisian. Who's the
I can't think of his name. Yeah, Kellen DeBoer.
Yeah. That's not him guy. He didn't come in with the new regime. That guy was recruited by Nick Saban. That's a Saban defensive guy. That's why Howie went there. And when you talk about the quarterbacks, not only in this division, but around the whole league, the dual threat, and now you got 3 of them in your division. Okay, not only and 4th being our own, and the dual threat ability and his ability to be a spy and his sideline to sideline, the way you can go sideline to sideline. That's a home run pick Because what killed us with Jaden Daniels? What killed us? And I'll tell you.
His movement.
His ability to
His
move around on
escapability.
us was definitely problematic. And to be able to get a guy to defuse that bomb is gigantic. That is gigantic. And that's just one thing in his route tree of a player, right? That's just one of the things. That's a top 15 pick. And arguably, you could make a case if Nick stayed at Bama one more year, that guy's a top 10 pick. Because that defense would have been better and it would have been more Saban style of defense. And it would have been a change in scheme and different things like that. He's probably a top 10 pick.
And Howie's fearless too. When he's really come into his own these last 4 or 5 drafts, and he's fearless. He goes out. A guy has an injury. He's not afraid to not just take him. He's not afraid to move up to get him. Right? This is a guy who should have been a top 15 draft pick, but he's had shoulder issues, and that was a concern, and he dropped. And Howie said, "Well, I'm going to go up and I'm going to get him." So because apparently there were a couple teams that were looking to jump up into that spot. And he finally had the opportunity, and nobody would have thought otherwise if he would have got into that 22 or 23 or 24 spot to get him. And that says a lot. You got him at 31. Actually helps you out in terms of your pocketbook of what you're going to have to pay him down the road.
And Chrome, absolutely, because you build the team the way he's built it, you're able to do that, right? You're able to have that, as you called, fearlessness to go up and get your guy because you know that you got playmakers everywhere else too, right? You're not that you're reaching, but you're going to go fill a spot, and he just happens to still be the best guy available right now. But because of a few things that we might not have an issue with from a medical standpoint, we don't care, and we're going to go get him, right? But because you have that core built already on that defensive side of the football, you're able to do that. You're able to do that for sure. Yeah, it would have been interesting, though, if they were able to get to 22. It would have been interesting to see if Jahad Campbell was really the guy or if it would have been Malachi Starks. I'm really interested. I almost wish we could play that alternate reality to see what that was, right? It's almost like my question to Hinkie, right? Was it always Embiid? If you got the number 1 pick, was it always Embiid? Right? We'll never know.
You can make the case it was always Jahad because they probably looked at Makuba as a guy that they can get in the second round, third round. So, I mean, listen, people don't always say that. They don't always say we've been trying to get up and get you for a while. I don't hear that when I re-listen.
No, I hear
GMs talk. I don't. You know what I mean? Just giving them a pass. We want to assume that they're just saying it to make the guy feel good. But I don't hear GM be like, man, we were trying. We were where we weren't going to get you. We were trying to go up the whole draft. And thank you for continuing to fall to us, per se.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't hear that a lot. You might hear that in later rounds, dude, we're so happy we're still on the board here. You'll hear that kind of stuff, but not.
Yeah.
Man, we were actively trying to go up and get you for upwards of 15 picks now, and
for an hour.
Nobody wanted to get back to us.
And it probably helps too that your owner's saying the same thing, right? So it probably helps that narrative when your owner's sitting there saying, "We've been trying to get you for the last hour."
Because it's probably true.
Yeah.
There's not.
What up to Shay?
Yeah, they don't get anything out of BS in that lying. There's no why. Lie? Why would you lie?
So for what? You're gonna make John feel better? We drafted you anyway.
Your first round draft pick, you're getting the same money. Who cares?
Yeah, we were trying to get you anyway. We got you. So what do I got to sell you that we were trying to get you even more?
Yeah. No, I mean, ultimately, I'm pretty happy. Obviously, coming off a Super Bowl, it's hard to be upset about anything that we're really doing here. I mean, again, like you guys are saying, we just got a bunch of depth pieces. We don't need people to be day one starters, even though Jahad Campbell's going to be. Makuba probably can be. You don't need them to start. Should be, right? You have these guys who should be able to come in and play and be impact players right away, right? But you're almost kind of spoiled in the sense that we had that last year with our first 2 picks. So not that we can expect that that's going to happen, but, you're in a position where you take the best player available again at 31 in Jahad, who fits a need where we can go sideline to sideline and chase down Jaden Daniels. And then, Makuba hopefully turns into CJ GJ. Again, you just got a bunch of depth pieces after that. So, and selfishly, I like that we took two guys that are from this area in Jihad and Kyle McCord. So, like around this area. That's pretty fun.
Pump. It ain't real unless you super chat it. I mean,
Sidney Brown stinks. He stinks.
I don't know why you guys watch anything Celio related or from that network. Like, you have guys on that network wearing goddamn kangaroo hats. I mean, I can't help you if that's where you go for. If that's where people want to go for their football info. I mean, Jacob Media. Wow, I'll put money on that too, Dave. I think Makuba wins the job. I don't think they're just going and drafting the guy in the second round like that. If they don't feel like he is going to come in and compete for that spot with a chance to win it, they're not going to give it to him.
Yeah.
But if he comes in and the way he hits and the way he takes the football away, I mean, I know Sidney Brown's an aggressive player, and this isn't a shit on Sidney Brown fest either, right? I want him to be good. But I'm just saying, like, Makuba's got way more upside than Sidney Brown does. He's coming from a team that was loaded. He's playing in meaningful games and literally knocking guys' heads off. And again, 5 interceptions at that level of college football is what I call ball hawks. The ball finds you.
Yep.
The ball, so he's got that ability and he hits. We said the one weakness of him is he's got to learn to rap better. But Sidney Brown's got those same flaws going into year 3 where he don't wrap up well. Right? He just wants to deliver the hit. So you might be talking about two guys with similar flaws. So, and the other guy's running a 4.4. He's running wide receiver speed at the safety position.
Yeah.
I don't know. The more speed I can get on the field, the better.
And not to like talk about guys' backgrounds because that doesn't necessarily matter. The kid is from Africa, right? Like, think about the childhood he had to get where he is now and have an opportunity to, make millions and millions of dollars and be able to provide for a family and take care of your parents.
Well, so is Embiid. So,
All right, well, different conversation, but you understand what I'm talking about.
Didn't want to be the guy to do it, but
yeah, come on. No, again,
but then I can throw Mutombo back at
there. So.
And we're back.
But no, like those guys tend to work a little bit harder than most.
Here we go. You're drinking the pumper juice. You know what I mean? You want all Latin American players now. We want guys that had a hit to get off the island. You know what I mean? And in Makuba, we want a guy that had a hit to get off that island. So
Pump. We might finally all agree on something, Pump. You said you all be ready for Keeley season. We might all agree on that one, Pump. I'm in on Keeley. We're good.
Or Dory takes the job from him.
Or Dory takes it. But yeah, I mean,
but which is a good problem to have, right? That's the whole point. That's why you go sign a veteran to come in here, because if the guy isn't ready to take the job yet and Keeley, then you don't have to give it to him yet. Right? The same thing with Makuba. If Makuba's not ready to take the job yet, you don't have to give it to him yet. You can go with a guy with a little bit more experience. Not that Sidney has a lot, but you guys get what I'm saying. A little bit more professional experience at this point.
For sure. I didn't realize until recently. I knew Makuba started at Clemson, but I didn't realize he was a trot buddy too. So we brought in a couple of guys that are buddies with Trotter. So we're going to start the Trotter tree.
I just think we do a good job of evaluating guys, like knowing each other, guys being friends with each other, guys playing with each other, guys not only playing with each other, but are more the leaders of their teams.
But
we do our homework, man. Like, we do our homework on the locker room. That's been something for 3 decades now. And I'm saying 3, we're in 2025, right? But you get what I'm saying. 2.5 decades. That's been a common theme of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's been a common theme of Jeffrey Lurie. It's been about the locker room. And, man, a lot of organizations say they want to do it, boys. But the Philadelphia Eagles flat out going out and done it.
They do. They're unapologetic about it, too. They're unapologetic. And to that point, right, Tommy, though, it helps with that transition, right? Some of these guys come in deer in the headlights, but they're like, no, I got 2 buddies with me, right, that can help me walk through it together, right? We can go through this together. They did it with, they've done it a lot the last few years, and I think it's I think it's a nice perk, and it's a nice thing that they're doing because the guys can actually play for the most part too.
If Jeffrey Lurie, this is a hot take, very hot take. If Jeffrey Lurie is still the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, which I believe he will be, when this guy's sentencing is done or his time away is done, yeah, go with me here, okay? Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs are thick as thieves, okay?
I'm in.
If there was an organization that could do it, and I'm not telling you Henry Ruggs is stud, I'm not, again, guy did a prison term, not easy to come back and play football, okay? Mm-hmm. I get it. But if there was an organization that said low risk, tremendous upside, and we're the one who can weather the storm of it, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. There's not another organization in maybe professional sports that can handle that storm. I mean, goodness gracious, I've had dogs my whole life. All right, you understand? And when 7 geared up, I was ready to fight for 7. No pun intended. Okay, but I was ready to fight for 7. So because the Eagles, if there's a team that can do it, it's them. Pump, we're just talking tonight. There's not a lot to talk about. And goddamn, the
there's nothing going on.
May 1st, and I'm saying everybody that talks about Henry Ruggs says the same thing about the kid. Listen, we all make mistakes at some point in our lives. Some may take somebody's life, and that is horrible. Yeah. All right, that is horrible. But I'm going to tell you all to circle back to when you're 19, circle back to when you're 20, and tell me you didn't look back right now if you're in your 40s and say, I did some really dumb shit.
Yep.
That could have affected people. And luckily, we're all here to talk about it. Okay? Everybody can admit to doing something stupid in their teen years that could have got somebody hurt. Okay? And I'm not defending Henry Ruggs here. This is not what it's about. So, Pump, shut the fuck up. Okay? I'm not trying to defend Henry Ruggs and what he did. I'm saying organizationally, if there's a team that would do it, it would be them. And they have one of his best friends on the team already. So they're great at the locker room environment and bringing people in that you're close with to help you on whatever you may struggle with. Jalen Carter. Why is Jordan Davis? Why is it easier to go draft Jalen Carter? Because you have Jordan Davis. Why is it easier? Why is it also easier? Because you have the Kobe Dean. Those things allow it and make it easier to draft Jalen Carter when you know there might be some extra, hypothetically, right? We don't know anything for sure, but you get what I'm saying, guys? Yeah. You can do that. You can do it because you don't need a counselor in house. You got his family here.
Yeah, it looks like he can get out.
I like it.
Looks like he can get out first time for parole in August of next year. August the 26th.
Line up the track team, baby. Let's go.
Sure, we'll put him in the slot.
Pump maybe. Sidney Sweeney didn't say no, so it hasn't been no yet. You know, Pump? It's always a no it's never a no until they say it. So maybe you still got a chance.
Pump, if you don't agree with the take, and I'm just using Ruggs as an example of this, if you don't agree with the take organizationally and what they're able to weather and not weather compared to a ton of other organizations around professional sports, then you haven't been paying attention to Jeffrey Lurie over 2.5 decades. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they've proven it.
The guy literally hired a quarterback coach from Green Bay and literally changed his franchise trajectory in 1999. This guy also hired a guy who had the worst press conference maybe in the history of Philadelphia sports. The opening press conference.
Maybe in the history of any sport, honestly.
And I didn't want to do that to him, but I sure as hell will say here, because I know that to be factual, right? So they're the only ones who can do it. I'm telling you, they're the only ones. They're the only ones who can get away with some things that maybe other organizations can't. One, because we're so diehard, right? And it's like we'll eat out of their hand.
Yeah.
But two, they're Jeffrey Lurie talked gold standard for years, and we laughed at him. They are the gold standard. They've
actually become it. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It. Credit where it's due. They are the gold standard. over the last 2.5 decades, they've done a ton of winning. And the winning wouldn't mean shit if you don't have Lombardis and two of them in your trophy case. So all the winning before that matters too now. Now it all matters.
Because we did a ton of winning under Andy, and we thought we were the gold standard, but we never actually won.
Nope.
Right? Now you combine, because you still take that winning, but now you combine that with the current crew and the fact that you were able to hoist 2 in the last 10 years, right? What's it, 8 years, right? You know what I mean? 7 years. So now you are able to, and now you can actually cement yourself up there with the likes of the Chiefs and the Patriots in that sustained window of winning.
And what has been one of the common factors in all that winning? It has been an owner who is willing to take risks and admit when he's right or wrong. He will take flyers on people if he believes that their character either can be rehabilitated or if he believes in the guys in the locker room that can help somebody come along, or what, even if it's just a flyer on a coach who never really got much of an opportunity to call plays, like a Doug Peterson, who Andy basically did most of the play calling, but he came in and Doug did his thing here and got you a title. Like, or remove your general manager from his spot to bring in the hottest, college coaching prospect, only to then basically put him back into that spot, and then he becomes a Hall of Fame general manager. Mm-hmm. That's because he took the accountability for, he said, we're going to roll the dice, we're going to go with this guy. I didn't get it right. Will you go back in that spot? And he did. And it's one of those decisions that changed the organization. You have a fearless ownership group who is willing to go out there and is willing to take a risk. And way more often than not, this organization ends up coming out brighter at the end of the tunnel when they do that.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at just straight stats since 2000, the Eagles have the 5th most wins, 2nd most in the NFC behind the Packers. Then they're really the only team that hasn't had a perennial going to be Hall of Fame quarterback playing for them during that time frame. So that's organizational. That's obviously there's coaches that have a big impact in that and certain players, but you didn't have, a guy like Tom Brady or Ben Roethlisberger or Aaron Rodgers under center for 20 years. So
no, we build a culture of winning.
Yep. That's simple.
And winning's contagious. Because if you're up top people, pour their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and that, and players know that that's what they care about. They care about you and they care about winning, and you do it over time and you treat people right. You don't think that word of mouth organizationally gets out to more and more people on how well run organizationally they are with their players, etc. Does that mean Howie was perfect from the start? No. Chrome talked about his accountability. Well, when you have accountability at the top, guess where else you're going to have accountability?
Trickle down effect, man. It's going to move all the way down.
Yep, it's simple stuff. So then you have a quarterback who's an accountable cat. Again, Jalen Hurts isn't perfect, but he's an accountable cat. So that also then trickles through. We always talk about guys are going to follow the guys who get paid the most money, and obviously how do your 2 figureheads up top of your organization are. And then let's look at your head coach, who we can say things about him at different times, but we can't say that he doesn't care about his players.
Sure.
We've never said that Nick Sirianni doesn't care about his players. And I say this all the time. If guys know, especially at the pro level, that you truly give a shit about them, they're going to do extra, man. Yep. They're going to fight extra. They're going to scratch and claw a little more. That stuff's like 101, especially at that level.
Run through a wall.
Yeah, like you get more. You get more. Now, is that always perfect? Absolutely not. Because we can say, well, they collapsed a year ago. So where was that? So talent matters too. All those things matter. But again, we go back to accountability. You have an epic collapse that could literally change the trajectory of how this franchise goes from there. Okay? Could have got guys fired or a lot could happen there. Patience. Okay? patience, accountability on all ends on what happened that year, right? At the end of it. Accountability from everybody. And you flip that script and you come out 2-2, go to a bye, accountable. Guys talked about it. Very accountable bye week. Back. And you Super Bowl champs.
Well,
After that, man.
I think too, it's an understanding of your culture, right? Because the national media all season with what happened last year, and I mean they were 2-2 and they were missing AJ, like they were missing all kinds of players. Particularly when you go to that Tampa game earlier in the year. I mean, they may as well put the four of us out on the field at that point with Jalen Hurts. There was nobody playing in that game. And immediately, the pundits and the national media come out and say, is it a Nick Sirianni problem? He's yelling at people after a win and this and that. And every player came out and said, that dude cares more than anybody else. And talked about how passionate he is and how he's there for those guys and that they run. I mean, they did nothing but defend him. And again, it's an organization that blocks out all the noise. Even us, even Pumper out here who's trying to, throw cold water on everything and just be that guy. They block all this out because they know who they are. They know their identity. They know their accountability level. And they believe in the system they put in place that starts at the top with Jeffrey Lurie. And that's why this team continues to succeed because they don't, at the end of the day, they really don't give a shit if we like or we don't like. They know who they are. They believe in themselves. And they will continue to move forward time and again while teams like Jerry are out there throwing podcasts out every week and doing nothing but shooting himself and his team in the foot week after week after week.
Well, I'll say this to them listening. I definitely think Howie's listening to this show at some point in his life because there's no way he flips the script like that. Where we're yelling at TCU and all this, and why you're not going and getting, going to the power schools and getting guys with track records, and all this. And then he started, and if you notice where he started going, which is amazing, is he makes it more amazing, is he didn't just start going to schools that were winning. He was going to schools that their head coaches were pro coaches, right? It was pros with Kirby and Nick, right?
And pro systems.
And he knew he was going to go get guys too, and something triggered him for this. And I'm going to give us credit. And once that happened, look at his drafts. Now look at his drafts. It's not that easy either. By the way, you can go to Bama and Georgia and get the wrong guy too, right? Let's make that clear. So this isn't that easy where you just go to Alabama or Georgia over the years and you're going to always hit. No, but there's Texas this year, right? Texas is really good. So there's different power schools that are known for football, right? Even Ohio State, if it's the right positions, like know where you're going to schools for and what those schools are known to do. And we talk about the kid from Nebraska, right, Crum? The kid from Nebraska. Okay, Nebraska is known for D tackles that maul you a little bit more than you're going to get offensive guys from Nebraska. So know what schools usually put out. Now that also matters on the change on where guys are going, right? A guy's staff does a great job in developing wide receivers. I think Ohio State's known for that. Well, if that staff went somewhere else, then know where that staff's going. That staff's going to continue to do that type of job. So maybe I switch schools on where I go. So certain schools just put out certain things. Penn State, they don't give me wide receivers. They don't. But defensive players, front seven guys, it's a good place to go. Good place to usually go. So you just gotta not a perfect science either. But then where I think where they take the next level here is, or what they have over the last few years, it looks like, is they're doing a great job of finding out about the kind of worker they're getting.
Well, the thing to your point too, right? I mean, you just look at the colleges: Alabama, Texas, Nebraska. Georgia, Boston College, Syracuse, Michigan, Texas, Virginia Tech, all football, right? And the thing, to your point too, even when you look at Ty Robinson, right, who's a pretty damn good defensive tackle. There's a former NFL coach running that program now. So again, it kind of falls in line with what the new trend is, or I don't want to say trend, what the new standard is for this organization when they go and they evaluate the potential talent to draft.
Yeah, they're. I give this trade.
That's a program that's on the rise right now. Nebraska, they're finally starting to play a
the
little bit.
vanilla gorilla.
No, he looks to be a monster. Now I know you can say that about like drafts all the time, but
That's
he's
his
really,
nickname. What's his nickname?
That's a great nickname.
The vanilla gorilla.
I mean, he is gorilla.
It's funny too because if they there was a package in there in Nebraska where he was a fullback. So in the event that they do ban the tush push, you just put the vanilla gorilla in at fullback and just follow him.
Now we're giving Jordan Davis carries. You know what I mean? Then we're going to start giving Jordan Davis carries.
Well, no, I'm giving carries. Just paved the way.
Refrigerator Parry. Fred with J.
Might be Mailata's time finally, huh?
Well, did you see they brought in a?
I've been asking for that for years.
Did you see they're bringing in another rugby player in the camp?
Love it.
No.
They just announced today they're bringing in a rugby guy to try him out at linebacker and edge. You should see this guy. Just go to Twitter and just find the guy. I forget his name, but he is like blowing people up in rugby.
I'm all for it.
I don't want Malata taking any carries because then he'll tear his ACL, or he'll get like Nick Chubb running because he's so big. Like it's going to be hard for him to get that low as defenders can get because guys are going to be right at their knee. So I'm good. Stay left.
Speaking of Chubby, did you see his workout so recently?
He looks
going to give you a
incredible.
Chubby?
No, he looks pretty damn good. He looks pretty damn good. He looks ready.
Why would we think Jordan Malata wouldn't look good?
No, we're talking Chubb.
Talking about Nick Chubb.
Chubb. Yeah.
He looks like a maniac right now. He's ready to get on the field.
Oh yeah,
I'd bring him in.
He's on my dynasty roster. I need him to have find a team and just get back to what he was doing 2 years ago.
I know I talked a lot of drafts, so I'll keep it short. I'll keep it quick. I absolutely love the draft, but my favorites are the three linemen that we picked up, the three tackles that we picked up late. I think you look 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and in there might be the Lane Johnson replacement at right tackle and Cameron Williams. Both Cameron Williams and Hinton, both their fathers played 10+ years in the NFL. So you want to talk about like going to pedigree lines, right?
Pedigree, we love pedigree.
And the kid from Rutgers that they gave a butt ton of undrafted free agent money to is just an absolute monster. And if you want to think of maybe that's like a Becton to guard type of move, just because of how big he is, and we saw how effective Becton was, just being an absolute moose knuckle at the guard position down the road. That might be. You know what I mean? That might be another option there. I was shocked they picked 10 guys with as many draft picks as we have over the next 10 things. I was shocked that we kept trading back on day 3 to accumulate more. But those guys that we drafted, I think have – not all of them obviously are going to make the team, right? But I think they all have a potential to be competitive and help, whether it's practice squad or whatever, down the road. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to these tackles to see how they play out and see how they develop over their courses over at Stoutland U.
Yeah,
I'll
man,
jump on you. Yeah, I'll jump on you. I mean, it's a good point for sure, right? I'll just, my A is just because I think they did a great job with their first 5 picks.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying every one of those guys is a starter and every blah, 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 but I can make the same case that you might look 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and you're talking about all these guys starting somewhere or contributing somewhere on your football team. So that's where I look at it. I think they did a really great job on the position they were in. And I think if you give it time, Kyle McCord will beat out Tanner McKee for the second string quarterback. Not this year, but maybe. And I like Tanner, but McCord to me is better. He's just better.
getting McCord might allow you to trade Tanner
Yep.
for something.
A 6th round pick, 5th round pick.
Or even just a player, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't know player swap, but yeah, I got you.
Maybe it's a Tanner McCord for Kyle Pitts swap.
Oh, my God. Stop with Kyle Pitts. I don't want Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts stinks, okay? Kyle Pitts is not a guy we want. We want Dallas Goedert.
I'll take him for a year. I'm not saying we got to get rid of that, Dallas.
Shut up. Not drafting a tight end isn't crazy because you just want to draft for need, pump. I don't need tight end when I bring Ruggs in. Right? Relax.
We got Johnny Wilson, pump. We got Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, I got Johnny Wilson.
Dallas Goedert is a 2-way tight end that you need to win. I'll say it for 1,000th time, pump, because you might not have heard it. I just had to change coordinators. Okay, I don't want to have to go and now have another change on this offense. I want to keep the offense as intact as possible because then the chemistry's there. So they're going through new nuances or whatever maybe together to a point, even though it's in-house. I need their chemistry to be A++++. So that if the play calling isn't, they can make up for it. You understand? And Dallas Goedert gives you the best chance to win. Right now, there's not another tight end out there that's going to, at this point, that's available that we know of, is going to give you as good a chance as Dallas Goedert.
Well, I think, too, the window is open, right? So I think it's very telling that they didn't go out and get a tight end because I think they went into this saying if it's the right pick at the right time and it makes sense, we're going to take them. Or if we get the right trade offer, and it still could be the case. But it also tells me that if they walk into 2025 and Dallas Goedert's on this roster, they are perfectly fine with that. I don't think I think they would like to get something back for him, but I don't think they see this as a be-all, end-all that they have to. If they end up, riding out the last year of his deal, so be it.
The last few times that we've come across the Eagles, the Eagles have come across a scenario like this, they've always gotten at least a 1-year deal done with those guys. You look at Derek Barnett and his 5th-year deal, and you look at Josh Sweat most recently, right? Both of those guys went in their last years of their deal with no money guaranteed. They all ended up getting that last year restructured, got themselves some guaranteed money, and then was able to play out the year without very much disruption in terms of like a holdout and stuff like that, right? So if you look at it from that standpoint, that looks like to be potentially what would happen, right? They're gonna restructure the deal, get them some guaranteed, make them happy for this year, and then rethink things as we go forward. Because in terms of long term, I don't know that they have $40 million to give them guaranteed like George Kittle just got, right? Like I don't think they have that available when you look at what you're going to have to pay Nolan Smith, what you're going to have to pay Jalen Carter coming up. Huh?
How old's Kittle?
Kittle was 31. He's a year older than him. And he got $40 million guaranteed over 4 years.
Yeah, but I also think he has a little bit more of a resume.
He does.
Yeah.
So,
but still, you're probably getting you're not getting the 40 mil guarantee. You're probably getting something like that next.
Dallas right now is the 5th highest paid tight end.
Yeah.
So to stay in that range, you're still gonna
30 mil guaranteed, 25 mil guaranteed.
Yeah, to your point, he's not getting 40. Right. I don't know what that number is though. That keeps him here potentially long term, right? You know what I mean?
No, and I don't think you need to sign him long term, right? I think long term to me is 2-3 years when you're talking about him as a tight end and his health concerns. That's the most you're going to give him. So, you can give him a 3-year deal where, you can – I don't know their cap situation to be able to pull it off, but, front load it or back load it, however you want to do it, if it's a guy you really want to keep.
Yeah.
That's for them to figure out. Doesn't mean it will be a miss if they let him go. He's had health issues, but it's not a guy – it's a guy I got to figure out a way to make sure he's here this year.
Yeah.
And we can reevaluate it. To your point, Greg.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this year is so huge. I ain't gonna lie. The Winnipeg Jet whiteout or the St. Louis, Winnipeg Jet whiteout's pretty sick on TV.
I'm sure it
is.
It's
always nice. Love those.
Yeah. But the ice, like the coming off the boards in the ice is so sick. So sick.
But there's the injuries, and that's where you got to
Yeah.
make that's where the tough decision comes in. But that's where you hold the leverage too.
And that, to your point, there's that huge difference in Kittle versus Goddard, right? Kittle's missed 5 games over the last how many years?
Yeah, it matters.
Dallas misses 5 a year.
You might get $20 million guaranteed, Greg. He's not right. Like
But that number there from the tight end position, that's what, you know what I mean? Like when you're looking at, like we said, when he's on the field, he's a top 5 tight end, and obviously, like that's what his agent's going to go after, right? You know what I mean? Like, but yes, the injury concerns there, so he's naturally not getting 40. But what's that number that keeps him here? Is it 20? Is it 20 mil guaranteed over 2 years, 3 years?
Well, say 3 years, 20, 25 million guaranteed. You can work that deal out. You can make this work.
Yeah,
you can get
should be able to make that work.
$10 million a year, essentially. You can make this work. I'm telling you, and they know they can make it work. And again, I could be 100% wrong. It won't be the first time. That's why I don't think he was dealt, and that's why I don't think they were worrying about drafting a tight end, because they know they can make this work. It's about him wanting to make it work, and I got no reason to think he wouldn't want to make it work.
Yeah,
because he's got more. He's got nobody's going to overpay. Nobody's going to overpay for a 30-year-old tight end. That's the problem. You know, if he's 20, if he's 27, he's had injury concerns. Yeah, somebody's going to go give him his money. But this has been a track record of missing 4 or 5 games a year, right, guys? So if not more, you don't hold any leverage in that room. Besides, when you do play, you're awesome.
Yeah, you're top notch.
We know
when you do play.
That's why we'll give you $20 million guarantee, because we know how awesome you are, which is like changing money. That's just the guaranteed money. That's not how much money you can make. We know how that works, right, guys? So if you're on a roster, you're making that money for that year, whatever it is. If 1 year's 14 and 1 year's 10 and 1 year's 17, I don't know, right? That might have been the worst math of all time, right? Because I wasn't trying to do it. But you get what I'm saying, guys.
For sure.
Let's see. This season, he missed 7 games.
7, too many.
Last season, he missed 3 games. The season before, he missed 5 games. And then in 2020, he missed 6 games.
Yeah.
18, he played all his games. 19, he missed 1. 21, I think he missed 2. 1. He missed 1.
And then it started.
Yeah. The last 3 seasons have not been banner years for his health.
No. And those early years, he wasn't playing the amount of snaps.
Right.
Because that was obviously split with Ertz.
Yeah.
Right?
I
have no problem with
coincidentally, when Ertz got moved, when Ertz got moved is when he started missing games.
His shit started going down.
The first year that Ertz got moved, he played 15 and started 14 because Ertz got moved he got traded pretty early.
Yeah.
And then, the 3 years after that, he's missed significant time 2 out of the 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And then 1 season he missed 3 games. I mean, to me, that's still significant time.
And what's funny is in this whole thing is it's not even this year that like worried me that they didn't pick a tight end. It was last year or 2 years ago that they didn't.
Last year was the year to do it. There was a lot of tight ends in that draft last year.
The last 2 years, I think there was decent value at the end of the first round, early second round with tight ends. When you're looking at, they're even trying to trade potentially for Michael
even
Montgomery.
Into the 3rd round last year.
So that's those, because that's what they did with Ertz, right? That's when they drafted Goddard, was right towards the end of Ertz's first contract, and they weren't sure what they were going to do, and they ultimately were second contract, and they ultimately let him go. So that's where me, when I look back, I go, that's where you might have missed. It wasn't this year. This year, the value of where they were picking, there wasn't really anybody there. It was the previous years where you potentially had people that you didn't. And again, we win the Super Bowl, so who gives a shit, right? We're all good. But this year, we need him. We need him here.
Yeah, I believe he'll be here. Again, I think they would have got that done if he wasn't. And I'm sure Howie, again, they can move on from him too. So it's not saying it's over, but I'm sure they're trying to work out something. Because I think you would have heard something that Sides were really far apart.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of that. I don't know if you guys have.
No, I haven't heard anything on.
I haven't heard any holdout yet.
Nope.
Right, and that would have really started sparking up right away if a player doesn't feel like he's wanted.
Yeah.
Right? We know how that goes.
Sure.
And it could be the Super Bowl. It could be a little bit of that hangover that comes those first few months, per se. But again, I just don't think that's a guy they're going to just like let walk out their door and not get anything. I mean, I think they watch a guy like Zach Ertz still catch passes at a high enough level at however old he is, over 35. So, you see it from the tight end position. You just watch Travis Kelce, not this year per se, as much as the year before and years previous, at an older age, still be able to produce at a high level. And the Niners are showing that with George Kittle. The Dallas is just the injuries, and that saves us money. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's like a contentious situation where both sides are, it's not like what you saw with Myles Garrett earlier this offseason, right? It just seems like,
Or
whatever's going to happen.
Hassan, what goes in
Or
my
Hassan,
head, right?
yeah, that's another one, yeah.
Hassan barked right away. He just came out barking. Like Ryan's dog. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like it's a situation where they'll continue to talk, and whatever the outcome is, they'll figure it out together.
No, again, and if they don't, they don't. And I won't be happy. Not because I believe Goddard will play 17 games, just because you didn't have a contingency plan.
Yeah. Now, the Eagles tend to be proactive with most of this stuff, right? It's very rare that you see a guy who is such a big contributor for them go into the last year of their deal. Like, most of the time, Howie gets something done, like, earlier. Like, they're probably one of the few organizations that ends up actually getting in front of stuff. Like they gave Devontae an extension early. Like, they'll give these guys these money that they know they're going to be here for. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think if they didn't want him here, he wouldn't be here. So they would have traded him or something. But right now, I think, again, we're just trying to figure something out at this point.
Yeah, it's a good point, Ryan. I mean, they're one of the few teams that you very rarely hear talks of holdout and with their players, right? Because they're usually right on top of it, And then when that comes up, like when you think of like the Fletcher Cox when it came up, that stuff was done right away. It was like, all right, so let's stop this nonsense, let's stop this media talk, and let's get something actually done here.
And I think the big thing with Howie is he's not going to make the same mistakes he made after 2017, where he was giving guys like thank you contracts.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the thing here, where I'm not going to give you George Kittle money to thank you. I'm going to give you, like, you got, and that's where the conversation goes about games missed, right? We want you here, right? But you got to understand that that's our concern, that, if you're missing games, so it's going to be extremely incentivized. You're going to get your guaranteed money, but then the rest becomes extremely incentivized on how many games you play a year. You play 15 plus games a year. Okay, you have incentive built into your contract. That's not his fault he gets hurt, but that's how organizations protect themselves. And that's how I can see them getting this deal done.
Yeah, and even more so, that's important when you're paying the quarterback, right? Like, the Eagles aren't in that situation where they have a quarterback on a rookie contract. They're paying the quarterback along with quite a few skill players, right? So you're not really in the luxury of being able to say, hey, thanks for helping us out for a title here. Let me give you an extra 2 years because we're still only paying our quarterback, so-and-so.
Yeah.
Yeah, pennies. Yeah.
We definitely ain't.
And we're paying a lot of guys, right? So this is where it gets tricky. But this is where drafting well makes up for things.
Yep. We definitely paying our quarterback to have a prove it year. Paying a lot of money.
But I still think we are.
Clown. Yeah.
Who said prove it year? Pump?
Idiot. No. Idiot on the dial.
Oh, he said prove it year?
He is. Jalen Hurts has a prove it year this year.
You know that Jalen Hurts he's gone down even more so now. So he's the 10th highest paid quarterback in the league.
That's how it always happens.
I know. It's
because
just
these guys just keep getting paid. Yeah.
well, I loved how Tom's
Eskin said he's going to prove it year this year.
I loved how Tom's favorite buddy from back in the day, Joe Giglio, was trying to push from the draft Jalen Milroe.
Oh my God!
You didn't see that? Did you see that?
No, I did not.
I didn't. Yeah, I saw the clip. I didn't listen to it, but I saw the headline of the clip. Yeah.
Yeah, he was essentially saying they're the same player.
You should do what they did with Carson.
Right, which
isn't the same. It's not the same story.
What are we doing?
Joe Giglio might be the dumbest person I've ever seen. That guy's a moron.
I love Joe Giglio.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. This roster on paper is a Super Bowl contending roster, obviously.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I know people don't think they got better, but
they
arguably did in weird ways. Like Nolan Smith takes a step further even again this year. Now he's better. Jalen Carter takes a step further. They're young. He continues to develop, gets better. Now he's better. We talked about Jordan Davis already. If Jalen Carter takes a step, right? Then you got high up, low risk, high reward, and Aziz behind him. Jahad Campbell, we've already talked about. And in the secondary, we know what that is. It's going to be Ringo or Dory Jackson, and then it's Sidney Brown, Maeve Makuba there, Reed Blankenship, Q, and Coop. That's not a top 5 to 10 defense in football right there.
Sure is.
And
everybody on that defense is 27 or younger.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a top 5 to 10 defense in football. I'm not going to tell you they're going to be the 85 Bears again like they were down the stretch, because that's what they were. They were suffocating. They suffocated you.
Yeah.
Now I think they're going to be that good, like they showed up in the Super Bowl. They're going to be pretty close to it. And why can't they be better than that? I love Milton Williams. Milton Williams, my guy. But he's not worth that money.
No, to me that's like a. I know he was a little bit older, but to me that's like a Javon Hargrave situation, where listen, he was really good here. I don't think there's some drastic drop off.
Absolutely,
by not having him in the lineup, and
he'll never be as good. No offense to Milton Williams, but he'll never be as good.
Milton Williams, really good player, right? I don't want to take anything away from Milton Williams. Really good player, but it's almost like when we got Hargrave, not when the Niners got him. It's almost like when we got Hargrave. That's like what they're getting, in my opinion. They're getting like that kind of player that will be like good, but like Hargrave was never great. I feel like he was very good. I didn't look at him as great. He had that one year where he was a monster year, right?
Really, really good here, but.
Yeah, but not great. Not worth Milton Williams money right now, right? We can make that maybe. I don't remember.
To the point too, right? Like I look at Milton Williams and how much did he benefit from having other guys around him?
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and good on him.
Oh yeah, and Hargrave had Fletcher Cox next to him.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's more of like because of the people he had around him who like he never saw a double team. Not to say that he's not going to be able to put up those numbers, right? But there's probably going to be a hit because you don't have somebody like Jalen Carter standing next to you every play.
Correct.
Right? You don't have somebody out there like Jordan Davis or Nolan Smith or these other guys that are, rushing the quarterback at the same time. So they're not really paying attention to this guy. Like, yes, he's really good, and I think he's going to succeed. But, he's probably not going to put up the numbers that they think they're going to get just because of the supporting cast around him. So
sure.
Yeah, and I think the big question is, we're talking about did they get better? And if that's debatable, that's fine. But I think what's not debatable here is, did they get worse? Because a lot of times when teams win a Super Bowl, they lose pieces. Because everybody, and we saw it before, our team got ravaged last time, where everybody wants to go after, they take your coaching staff, and then they take all your guys who are coming off of big years, who are ready for whatever deal it is. And we lost some key pieces this offseason, right? Debatable again on how big of a loss Gardner Johnson was. But guess what? They went out and drafted his replacement. And I think the dude's going to be an absolute beast on this team. So, they had a game plan going in. They identified who is a key piece here that they need to have going forward, and who were guys that they felt like they could replace. And I think they did a really good job at filling those holes, and potentially, when you look at like a guy like Makuba, the upside there could be tremendous. So
Yeah, no, they got him listed.
they
as
certainly
a
didn't
free
get
safety.
worse. A Super Bowl winning team that kind of was, cherry picked a little bit, did not get worse.
No, for sure. And then going into, I think this could maybe be a reason why they were ended up trading back a whole lot. If you go into camp and you don't have exactly what you want, how many draft picks do you have in next year's draft that you can trade something to go and get somebody that you can just plug and play into your defense?
And
or
that's what
plug
they
and
do
play
all
to
the
an
time
offensive
too,
spot.
Ryan.
So
They
yeah,
do.
like last year they did the Jahan Dotson thing, right? They'll go and find somebody. They'll trade a third or a fourth to give somebody that they can plug on in who can be a starter for you, but it doesn't have to be the best player on your defense because you have all of this or your offense or whatever it's going to be. And you plugged a bunch of guys in that are like developmental guys now, but you can go and get a guy that hey, he's going to come in here and he's going to plug the hole if you don't find that in camp. So that's just what they do. And because you have so much draft capital next year, you have even more ability to do that. So
They got lucky too.
They have 8 picks next. Sorry.
No, go ahead. How many picks?
They have 8 picks, potentially up to 12 picks next year. They have 8 of their own, and then you're looking at potential 4 compensatory picks.
Yeah. So
yeah. So I mean, what I'll say is they got lucky too, because it wasn't like Jalen Carter coming up on the end of his deal there at the win of the Super Bowl. It wasn't name it. It wasn't Coop. It wasn't Q. Right? So they're in that way they got lucky, but then there was a lot of guys they did lose. When you lose Darius Slay and you lose CJGJ and Milt Williams and Josh Sweat, you're losing 4 as a whole 4 damn good football players. So it's not easy. It's not easy. You have a great young nucleus, and your defense was so good that it makes it a lot easier sort of to fill those holes.
Mm-hmm.
It just does. And then your ability to draft well, which they done. Now they got Makuba listed as a free safety, not a strong safety. I don't know if that matters. Right? I don't know. But that's what they have him listed here on our lats.
I think one of the big factors here too is when you can let guys like that go. Obviously, the age factor is one thing, and whether or not there's a chemistry issue or an ego issue. But when you have young guys who can go out there and have won on multiple levels, time and again over the last 5 years, when you talk about leadership in the locker room and what they can bring to the table for anybody else coming in, that's like 12 years of experience packed into 4 or 5 years for these young guys. Some of these young guys already who came out of Georgia and Alabama and that have won. And I think that's a big factor into why this team is able to operate the way that they do as well. And again, I mean, I'm very excited to see what some of these guys do and how they can contribute to a team that has a lot of winners on it.
Yeah. Yeah, what's that old saying? Winning cures everything, right? Winning solves everything. And again, going back to where these guys are drafted, a lot of these guys have done a lot of winning for a long time. And that builds a culture. That builds leadership, right? That builds leaders in there. When you have guys that have been around some of the goats of the organizations, when you look at Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, then Jason Kelsey's and the likes, right? Then those guys learn those habits, and then they're the next guard, right? So you look at the Zach Bonds, you look at the Jalen Carters, you look at the Reeds on the back end, right? Those are those guys that next wave of leaders on the defensive side that, you're going to take this team over and going to continue that run for this defense.
Yeah. And actually, thanks, Swoopy. We were kind of answering Umberto's question as
Oh, I didn't
we
even
were
see that.
talking about. He actually dropped that in there. Yeah, I do think not just winning the Super Bowl, but guys who have won multiple national titles and then came in and won a Super Bowl in their first 1 or 2 years in the league. That absolutely speeds up the experience and leadership, in my opinion, particularly when they are key contributors to those teams.
Sure. No question.
Yeah, I think you got to take a look at like those guys who get named captain when they're younger, right? Usually it's going to end up being the quarterback or like the captain of the defense, whoever it's going to end up being. Like Zach Bond came in, I'm pretty sure he was a captain last year. Like these guys who are still just new to the organization or younger, who are now like, the higher paid players on the team, I think they just naturally assume those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And, staying behind those guys like BG and like Fletcher Cox and, CJ and these other guys who are here who held a standard to a certain level, like these younger guys like Q and Coop and Carter, like these guys are just going to pick up on that and just hopefully just continue the same level of, excellence like we were talking about earlier. Like, hey, this is the way we do things. This is what we're going to do. And this is what we're going to do. And we're going to just win the ball games. This is what we do. You come in here, you work hard, you get after it, and we're going to win. Just fall in line or else you're not going to be here. So,
yeah, I mean, I talked about it after the Super Bowl, but I'll go back to listen to Jalen Carter talk on the field after the game, right? Everything was we. There was no me, there was no I, there was no this or that. The only time that came up in conversation was when he talked about how he was happy to be the guy on the field that everybody focused on because it allowed the other players around him, Josh Sweat, to get to the quarterback. He was more than happy to take on the role of the decoy. And yeah, he didn't fill the stat sheet up. But because he did his job of being that main piece that was game planned for, as long as he played his game, he was able to create enough so that the guys around him could create opportunities. And everything was about we, they, this, that. Never heard a me out of him other than saying I was happy to let all the other guys get spotlighted. Like that to me, that's a leader already. He gets it. He's been in a winning program. He knows what it takes to win. He might do some dumb shit off the field from time and again, but he knows how to win on a football field.
There you go.
What
23-year-old hasn't?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no. I'm happy with where the team's at. I don't have any real concerns. Like the organization is just really run well. Like, and these guys that we take up, like, we're the only organization that can take guys that maybe have some concerns or risks or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, all right, we got it. No big deal. Not going to worry about it. We'll figure it out. Big Dom will straighten it out.
Big Dom, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Listen, we know that not everything hits the way that we would like it to, but this organization has gotten to a place, and honestly, well earned over the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, to where, as much as sometimes I scratch my head at something, I never truly question it, because way more often than not, the decision makers at the top of the organization seem to hit it right. And whether it's they know more than we do or they're ahead of the curve and whatever it is, I mean, Howie's a Hall of Fame guy for a reason and considered maybe one of the best executives in the history of the game. He's literally built 2 Super Bowl winning teams. Like,
yeah,
there really wasn't a lot of. You're not talking about just carryover. Yeah, they went back to the Super Bowl with some of those guys, but twice he's had to rebuild an organization, and in a very short period of time.
Kern, we talked about that throughout the draft coverage. Like we've reached a point in the with the organization with Howie to where we're just like, all right, whatever. I know you got a plan, or like, normal, and like that's kind of scary for us as fans, especially Philly fans, right? Because we want to hate on every move, we want to be critical of everything, but like he's reached a point where he's hit so often and sometimes outside of the box, right? Like Zach Bond for a perfect example. Everybody thought that signing was just like a legit depth, special teams type of, signing for that money. And here he is, but should have probably been the defensive player of the year, and you just reach a point where it's like we almost don't know what to do with our hands when it comes to what Howie's doing with this team, because we want to be critical, but we want to question everything. But he's reached that, like you said, he's reached that point where he's proven to us and to everybody that he's got a plan and he knows what he's doing.
He's reached a point that no other executive, maybe in the history of this city, has gotten to. And that is essentially complete and utter autonomy, not just with the organization, but with the fan base. Because I don't think there's ever been an executive, and I'm even talking even guys that people love like a Pat Gillick, there's never been an executive in this city that I would say 80+% of the fan base, no matter what they do, even if we're confused like a CJJ, we go,
Howie knows better.
He knows what he's doing.
Howie knows what he's doing.
We have never, as a fan base, said that anyone knows better than any of us, because we all think we all
know what better. Yep.
We're all armchair quarterbacks and everything else. But he's the one guy. He seemed to crack the code of the city of Philadelphia.
Sure seems that way. It's a good spot because I'm full agreement. I like where we're at. I think we're in a good spot. I think we're in a spot where we're very similar to last year, right? Where we're still one of the best, if not the best in the league.
And Greg, you're a guy who always finds a way to question something.
Yep.
So for you to say that, honestly, it does tell me a lot, because that is almost shocking to me.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Pleasantly surprising.
Yeah, I'm one of the more critical ones, or I try to be, right? I don't want my GM getting soft on me. I need that guy knowing that I'm looking over his shoulder, waiting to pounce on him.
That's true.
No, we're in a good spot. I really like where we're headed, and to me, I don't know where anybody with a straight face, unless you're just straight trolling, like we see everybody online. But I don't know where someone can look at this team and go, we didn't get better.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we didn't get better. We definitely didn't get worse. Right? With all we lost, we definitely didn't get worse. So if we didn't get worse, how are we not better?
Right.
You're telling me all these players that we brought in through free agency in the draft, we stayed stagnant? You potentially got 3 starters or 3 day one contributors out of your top 5 picks, and then the other 2 are potential special teams contributors, depending on how it plays out. And then you got some projects, like you're always going to have projects, right? But that's just the draft alone. And then you look at like the early free agency. Yeah, they weren't splashes, but those are guys that have had past where they've had really good skill sets and really good times in this league. So to sit there with a straight face and say we didn't get better is laughable to me. All right. Anything else, Eagles? We'll do quick 9 minutes of Phillies if you got anything else.
No, but I'm going to jump off.
Good on the Birds.
I have to get up for work in like 5 hours. So.
Yeah. All right, bud.
Good talk, boys. Go Birds. And hey, go Phillies.
We're
Phillies are looking good.
Close right behind you. Yeah, Phil, 4 in a row. 4 in a row. See you, bud. I missed the part of the game where Sanchez came out. I don't think he came out. Did you watch any of the game, Rye?
No, I was working.
Okay.
I saw some of the highlights, though. I saw Schwarber one-hand the ball off the upper deck facing, so that was cool. It was
kind of stupid, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He just flicked it out.
Yeah,
even JT's bomb felt like a flick.
Yeah. No, I mean, like,
I missed where Sanchez came out to know if he came out for an injury concern or if it was just he was at 90 pitches after a forearm strain. So I didn't see anything come out injury wise. It just felt like it was.
I'm thinking it's probably the latter.
Good.
There's nothing.
Yeah. Because I was listening to Thompson talk on my way home.
Okay.
About like how when he was warming up with Cotham out there, he like from the jump he was throwing pretty good. And there was no issues there. So
yeah, I mean he looked good early on. It was just, again, coming out off of that forearm injury, that forearm can lead to anything, right? So you're just like, oh shit, why did he come out in the 5th inning? But
no, I think he was good. But hey, good win today. Good all around team win. Based off what I saw.
Yeah, they played well today. What I like most is that continue to tack on, right? So many times, especially early this year, we get that 3-bomb in the beginning, and then we get nothing else.
Yeah.
Right, and we kept chipping away, one here, one here, one here, one here, and to get a little power stroke from JT and from Kepler is a nice welcome surprise.
Yeah, I mean Kepler, he homered the other day too, right? Was that yesterday? The other day?
Saturday.
Saturday, yeah. So he's coming around a little bit. We like to see that.
Yeah.
You kind of manufactured a run. I was half watching that where like Harper got on, Schwarber got him over, Nick knocked him in. So the more that you're able to see that with these guys who are, more so have been just boom or bust at this point is nice. So hopefully they can do some more of that. So. And
what's funny is you almost felt like that was going to be the first inning before Schwarber went yard, right? Because you get first 2 on, and Harper strikes out. I think he struck out, or he flew out couldn't move the runners though. And then Schwarber's like gets down 0-2 real quick, and you're like, oh my god, is this going to be it again? 2 men on, top of the lineup, top of the first. We can't even move guys right early on, and then he golfs that one home run, and I'm like, all right, we're okay right now.
Yeah, no, big fan of that. Hopefully you're going for the sweep tomorrow, which would be nice. I don't know, when's the last time they swept somebody? Have they swept anybody this year? I don't know if they have.
Colorado.
All right, so yeah, second series of the year, like since the beginning of the month, or maybe even the end of March, whatever that was. So that'd be good. Sweep them. The Mets were losing. Did the Mets lose today?
Yeah, they
were
did.
losing. Did? All right, cool. Pick up a game there. They're playing Arizona, I think, the Mets. So, yeah, they won.
Well, Bryson's been awesome.
Bryson's been awesome.
Yeah. Hey, he's hitting 300 now, dude. He's hitting even 300. That kid's I heard Thompson say that he's probably going to try to give him some more spots against lefties, especially since he's been so good out of the leadoff spot.
Yeah.
But he said, like, well, I don't want to take Sosa out. I want to get him his spots. He was like, you want to try to get those guys who are bench pieces, those pick your spots, I guess. But Stott's a prototypical leadoff hitter. I love him hitting up there. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. Listen, I think he's brought some life into the offense up there. And I like Schwarber in the 4-hole, especially a team that's not hitting a lot of home runs.
Yeah.
Right? I sort of want that protection for Harper. I mean, Harper hasn't really done much either. So, you expect some of these other bats to get hot at some point, but it's nice to start winning some games where it's not everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's not 100 hits a night where these guys like to get hot with each other and then cold with each other. And you're on a 4-game winning streak. So you can't complain, right? I mean, we could.
No.
But honestly,
we could.
We got ourselves.
Yeah, we could, but
we got ourselves right back out of sort of where we were. 14,
right? Yep.
Yeah, we were 14 and 13. We were like, oh my god, right? We were all done. But I like that. They responded from it. We're back and we're playing better baseball. And like you said, right? I'd love to go sweep it tomorrow and on to the next.
And we welcome Arizona coming in on, I guess, Thursday? Or no?
Oh, no. We have
Friday.
Yeah, Friday. I'm going
tomorrow.
Saturday.
You go Saturday?
Yeah, I'm going Saturday.
Nice.
So, yeah, I get to see Nola. He's looked really good.
Again, you saw Nola.
Yeah, I saw him when they lost 3-2 to the Dodgers. I was at that game.
You've seen Nola 100 every start this year.
Maybe you shouldn't go. Right? He finally pitched well in Chicago. You weren't there right now.
No, he pitched well in the Dodgers game too. He gave up 2 solo home runs.
Yeah, he did.
You're right. They don't have.
You got Nola and Fott.
Yeah, that should be a good game.
Fott.
No, but I think them
forget his
winning
first
that
name.
game on Sunday, like when Nola
Brandon Fott.
absolutely shoved on Sunday night, like
Yeah, he
that,
pitched real well.
them winning that game was huge because they looked like they weren't going to get something, weren't going to get anything. That run against Nola shouldn't have counted. Rojas should have caught that ball in center field. They should have won that game, like before going to extras. And then all right, so you got that one, and then you got that extra run too. So make it 2 runs in the extras. Then you shut them down. Jordan Romano had his first clean inning ever. So, but no, they're playing better, and hopefully they can just again keep it up. So.
Yeah. Keep it up. Keep it up. Go win the series. Or we already won this series, but go sweep this series.
Let's go sweep. Let's get greedy. We gotta get greedy every once in a while.
And go win the next one. That's it. That's all you can ask for.
Keep winning ball games.
So.
Start chipping away. I think you're like 3 or 4 games back in the division now. Try to get that down to 2, 1, whatever.
Yeah.
Keep it close.
You guys got anything else?
Nope.
All right.
Good.
Well, we love you all. Go Birds. Go Phils. NBA draft coming up. Lottery coming up soon. Right?
They announce it in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, let's
2
see.
weeks.
Let's
Did they announce it the same day as the NFL schedule, right? The 14th? I think it is when it is, right?
Sounds about right. Let's see. Just run sim lottery. Oh, number 1.
Let's go.
Lottery sim. Let's go. Bang.
The 12th. So the NFL schedule is the 14th, that Wednesday. Lottery date is the 12th.
Yeah, so less than 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's usually like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something.
Monday, yeah.
Yep. Monday the 12th. Yep. So
let's go get a pick. Let's go get a pick.
Hell yeah. Keep your pick. I don't even care where it is. Just keep the pick.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's start with that. And then we can get get upset after that. But let's start with this.
Damn it, we got the 6th pick. Damn it.
Yeah, just give me a play.
Yeah, pissed off too.
Just give me a
We're out of
chance.
here. We love you all.
See
you next week.